The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. Well, we saw a fairly mixed trade on Tuesday. Lower grain action, cattle firm, hogs under a little bit of pressure. Outside markets, watching various economic reports get released this week, Fed meeting and more. We're watching headline news, weather, a lot of things to unpack. Let's talk about it. Joining us for a conversation, Tommy Grisafi, Nesvik Trading and Ag Bull Media. Tommy, how are you, buddy? It's good to talk to you again.
I'm doing well, Jess. I have my vest on because it's cold in my basement. But boy, if I go outside, it's a steamy one out there. Oof. We are in a weather market, but it's not type of weather market that's making markets rally. We're probably having mostly favorable weather to crops.
It's a good point. This heat dome that's been parked over much of the country has been fueling storms and more. We had this derecho event work through parts of Iowa and Minnesota and South Dakota on Monday night, or at least they haven't classified it as a derecho yet, I believe, but probably will be. Assessing any crop damage from that, but seems like it wasn't as bad as forecasted. And to your point, Tommy, a lot of areas of the Corn Belt, there's problems, yes, but most areas continue to show signs of a bumper crop, and that's what's really kind of depressing these grain markets right now.
Yeah, there's a group of people who were thinking last night's bad weather was going to knock it over like it did a few years ago, and that was the start of a great bull market where much more crops were ruined. There are people who've had problems, and our hearts go out to anyone who has any damage to a crop. But to think, I was on a conference call early this morning at Nesvik, and they're like, how much of Iowa's hurt? I'm like, I've called people. I watched that storm go by, and I called people this morning in those areas. They're like, yeah, we have a little damage. We'll see what it looks like in a day or two. Some direct hits to some places, but it wasn't, it was bad. And if it happens to you, it's really bad. But as far as like a national level, it was a big storm. It was more moisture. For everything that didn't blow over, it was more moisture. Every single client I've talked to, even people up here in northern Illinois, just south of Chicago, I have some farm clients in south where I live here in Valparaiso. We were dry, but we had 3 to 4 inches in the last 3 days. I mean, we're caught up, and right into pollination, 3 inches of rain. That's going to work. But there are parts of Illinois here, hit or miss. There's definitely parts of Illinois that are going to have 300 bushel corn, and there's some people who are going to be a little off. When you think about America, Jesse, when you think how big it is, when you and I are down in Nashville, Nashville to home doesn't seem far. It's 7 hours from Nashville to Valparaiso. And when you look at the United States map, it's like, 3-4 inches on the map. It's nothing. I'm going to drive out to Ag PhD Field Days. Folks, if you're watching, listening, I'll be at the Field Day event. That's 10,000 people. I'm leaving today to get to an event that starts Thursday. America's a big place, so we're going to go through northern Indiana, northern Illinois, all of Iowa. We're going to spend the night in Des Moines and then head up. We're taking the long way there. There's a shorter route, but that's okay. Then we're going to go up 29. And I bet your crops look pretty good. And there are problems, but a friend of mine from Michigan, he's been complaining, but maybe he's just a complainer, right?
The thing is, I look at the board, $4 D's corn, $10 Nove beans. It just seems like every piece of news that we get, even if it's got a slightly friendly, bullish tint to it, it's all just being traded as bearish news by funds, algorithms, you name it. I've used this term. The grain markets just feel like they're in a feedback loop of doom right now, Tommy. It's kind of what it feels like to me.
Yeah. The big beautiful bill had some money for farmers, and although that could be a good thing, anytime the government gives the farmers money, it's bearish. They don't give the farmers money in the middle of $7-8 corn. And so we're going through a hard time here where government payments keep showing up, and it's not good. It's good the government payments are showing up. You can't be a farmer, go to the FSA office, get a huge payment, and then say, now where's my rally? It doesn't work like that. The administration ran the campaign on that they're going to get food costs down, that this inflation was crazy. When we had high egg prices, it got extremely aggressive with it, and we did have high egg prices for a while. But now they're back to normal. And same thing with corn and other markets. We're just this is like when I was a kid. When I was a kid in 1993, 93 was different because we had the Mississippi River flood. But 94, I heard this morning on one of the ag shows, in 94, we had a monster Iowa corn crop. This corn crop this year could blow that away. And if you're out there and you're one of the people who has a problem, drop a comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. Jesse will call you and have you on the show. But the Board of Trade doesn't care. Zero cares right now for whoever you are and whatever problems you have. And when the government, when Secretary Rollins, who you personally have a relationship with, puts out these long worded, winded, and I hope they're watching, puts out these long tweets or X's about how great this was for the farmer and corn's down 5 cents. We cut a deal with the EU and corn's dropped a dime. Don't listen to what they say. Watch what happens. And the happening part is that SEP's trading 20 cents under D's, Jess. That's insinuating we have plenty of grain as we come into the new harvest here in 25.
And it makes it tough to manage your risk in this window if you haven't done enough risk management up to this point, Tommy. I know a lot of farmers are frustrated when you mentioned it. We get a trade deal framework announcement, whatever it is, and we go down a dime. And so I know that makes looking at the balance sheet and cost of production and more, it makes it a challenging environment right now.
Extremely. And I have compassion for the farmer. That's how I make my income. But you have to understand that the times like these do exist. Now, in my opinion, the best thing to happen would be to take this market a lot lower and then get some demand and V-bottom out of here. We'll see if that happens. To me, nobody wins when we just stay at this price, Jess.
Mm-hmm. Very true. What about the broader economy? We got economic data out this week, kind of our monthly deluge of updated numbers. We got the Fed meeting. You look at all these trade deals, the impact that it has on the broader markets and energies and more. I mean, what are you tracking there this week, Tommy?
Thanks for bringing up the energies. Crude oil with the $1.80 gain yesterday, $1.10 before we started recording today. Back-to-back updates in crude, $3 on a $60 item. That's a big move. We have a policy that says we're going to have low energy prices. OPEC said they're going to drill a bunch more. Yet something changed here. It has to do with the United States and Russia, whatnot. But I like higher energies. I like trading corn when oil's 80, 90, 100. When oil hits 60, 50s, it's tough trading corn. And so, the energy markets aren't signaling huge panics, but they're definitely putting on a little premium from when we had that big washout a month ago. So things are changing there. We'll see what happens, but all types of things going on, whether it be cattle or gold or silver. Silver approaching $40 an ounce. Mm-hmm. The dollar, that's something a lot of farmers watch, kicking it old school. The dollar had a big update yesterday, having a decent update today. That's usually bearish commodities. But with that, cattle are just marching right through. It's the biggest bull market in history, and you could sell it if you want, but you're going to get to know the margin clerk pretty well.
Well, the thing with cattle, too, is nobody can sit here and call it top. There's been plenty of volatility lately, but to your point, this cattle market just keeps churning and churning and churning and churning, and who knows when the top is going to happen, but I think we can say when it does, the correction most likely, as we've seen in history, will be pretty violent and pretty quick, Tommy.
Yeah, it could. And just to keep things in perspective, we're at such a high level that a 10% correction would be totally normal. Yeah. That's going to be $30 in feeder cattle. That's a big one. That could hurt people on the other way. So right now, I would say both parties have an equal amount of risk. Maybe it's favored that the long has more risk, but the long has been right. So if the long has a bad day, the spec long, someone long cattle, the physical, the rancher who's long cattle on hedge, they're a spec long, right? But in physical, someone who goes and buys futures as a spec long in the futures has been right. So they have money to play with. It's the short who has to keep sending in money every day, Jess.
Tommy, good perspective as always. Anything final you'd share or reiterate with producers here today?
Get a plan. If you have big bushels, get a plan for those bushels you absolutely know you can't store. Those are coming to market regardless of the price.
If folks want to reach out, have a conversation with you there in Nesvik Trading and Ag Bull Media, Tommy, what's the best way?
Yep. Go to www.agbull.com. There's a QR code. Take a picture of that. That's got all my information. Of course, you can follow me on all social medias as Ag Bull Media.
Agbull.com for more. Tommy Grisafi, Nesvik Trading, Ag Bull Media. Safe travels out to South Dakota this week. Thanks for joining us on the show. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you, sir.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. You can watch our latest interviews with top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. It's easy. Just go to youtube.com/@MarketTalkAg and hit the subscribe button. Or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.